Hey everybody, Carolina Tony. You've heard that gold was discovered in California and you've heard of 49ers? Well, that's wrong, because right here in 1799, gold was first discovered in the United States by a man named John Reed. A man so poor he couldn't hardly keep his family fed. But then something happened that changed it all. And we'll get into that, but right after this station identification. According to history, somewhere near this location of Little Meadow Creek in 1799, Conrad Reed, one of John Reed's sons, found a 17-pound gold nugget while skipping church. So instead of going to church, young Conrad decided to go fishing with his brother. And he found a shiny rock and he took it home to his father. So John was curious as well about the new shiny rock, so he took it to a silversmith. And because gold hadn't yet been discovered in the United States, the silversmith wasn't even sure what it was. Now remember, this is 1799 and gold had not yet been discovered in the United States. So the silversmith, not even knowing what it was, John just kind of took it home and used it for a doorstop for 2 years. Then in 1802, for some strange reason, nobody knows why, John decided to take it to a market in a town nearby, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And silversmith there looked at it and said, "John, you got yourself 17 pounds of gold here." And he sold it to him for $3.50. Now John was tickled to death because $3.50 was a lot of money back then. So John took his $3.50, went back home. Well, now $3.50 was roughly work a week's wages. So John said, "Hey, I got a pretty good thing going here." So when he got back home, he got up with some of his neighbors and they formed a mining company and decided they would start gathering these rocks and digging for them. So Reed Gold Mine was formed. John later found out that that gold that he sold for $3.50 was actually worth about $3,600. John's mining company stayed on the surface till about 1831, and then the first shaft was sunk by his sons and neighbors. And here is the entrance to Reed's Gold Mine. Let's go in. And we're going down through the shaft. This is pretty cool. This is a self-guided tour. Of course, they give you a little pamphlet so you know what you're looking at. And this, if you can tell, is kind of white looking rocks. This is a quartz vein as it runs through the side of the mountain. These rocks are sort of white. Water's dripping from the ceiling. Here you can see another vein of quartz as it runs through the mountain. course, as it was chiseled out, you can see how it continues on the opposite side of the shaft. And there's a shaft that was started. You can see the pneumatic drill that was used to drill through the shaft. And all through these shafts here is where they were finding gold. Of course, today the bottom of the shaft is all covered in level rocks, but through this wall here you can kind of get an idea of what it looked like when in the day that they were actually chiseling out through the mountain. The terrain was real rough. And of course overhead you can look and see where they chiseled out through the top there and put boards and beams to support the weight of the rock. Overhead there you can see those boards. That would have been another level. They would actually be working up on that. And more part of the original mine all back in there. It's kind of dark. There's a shaft there that's open to the top. And of course the gold would be, and rocks would be pulled out of there. And there's an ore shaft right there. That is so cool. So these ore carts would come down the track and land up about right here and then be hoisted to the top, put on another rail to dump the ore out. Lots of quartz. Okay, that shaft is underground. This is where it exits through the top side. And you see this big A-frame structure here with the barrel under it. Well, the gold and rocks that they wanted to keep or discard would be possibly put in this bucket and brought through that shaft right there, and that way it could be carted off. And if you look at these big mounds that are around us here, like over here and over there, that's actually what that was. That was rocks and dirt and all that came from underground, and they would just dump it up here on the top side. This is the site of the engine house. This is where a steam engine would have been located right over there. This structure here in the middle is called a Chilean mill. You see it's made out of stone and is dished out, and I'll show you a completed Chilean mill here shortly. But this was used to take fine stone and grind it into powder in order to get out the small granules of gold. And this is the chimney that was part of the engine house. It says despite an impressive array of machinery in 1854, the mine was in serious financial trouble by 1855, and work continued throughout the 1880s, but it continued to decline. This mine had seen its heyday. The engine shaft is the deepest on the property. By 1853 it was dug to a depth of 110 feet, and it was pumped down and retimbered several times. You see it's opening right there. It's just a little slit. Between 1853 and 1854, nearly 20 buildings were built on this property, and much of the construction was right in this area, including miners' cabins, blacksmith shop, an office, and a powder house. And as with most boom towns, they spring up, and once the purpose is served, they're gone. And all that's left is for nature to reclaim which once was. Okay, here are some more. Here's some more of these Chilean millstones. This was known as Middle Hill. And the bottom part there is the part there that would run around and crush the stone. This is a Chilean mill intact. And you see these stones are like wheels. They would roll around in this trough and crush the stone into fine powder in order so it could be crush the stones into fine powder so the gold could be extracted. Here are some more abandoned shafts that's actually filled in, and you'll find these all through the woods. Of course, they have them fenced off, and there's signs telling you that if you go on the other side, you're probably going to die. And this was probably the entrance to a mine at one time, and you can see how it's caved in all here. Here's the side of another tunnel that's been caved in. And they're all down through here. Can't you just imagine in the early 1800s, hundreds of men would be down in that water with their pans, panning for gold. And this is called a stamp mill. This was put in around 1898. It's a type that was used in California, and they bought this thing hoping to increase production. The quartz and stone would come right down that hill and stop here and be carried inside to this stamp mill. It would go up the catwalk there and be poured right in there. And this stamp mill would pulverize this into little small bits. And those little small bits would in turn come right down through here and run into this trough and down through a hole. They had it running just a little while ago, but you see the sand, and it would run right down through this little hole here, run up under the bridge, and run out down through there. Of course, the sand would come through this pipe here and go into those troughs with water running over it. And of course, gold was heavier, so the gold would not get washed out. They just pick it up. Here at Ruby Gold Mine, they give a little history about how important gold is with some of the things that's made out of gold, from Bible covers to jewelry, even false teeth. Gold is found in streams and in dislocated rotted surface. It's called placer gold. There's some devices that would be used to find placer gold. These crucibles were used in the early 1900s in refining gold. Said little is known about John Reed, but he amassed 745 acres and about 18 slaves in an estate valued at some $40,000. On his obituary in 1845, it was noted that Reed was a good citizen, a kind parent, a neighbor, a helper of the poor, and that as a Christian he was exemplary. Here's a plaster model of the 1896 nugget that was found. This is the last large nugget found at the Reed gold mine. Here's a picture of an actual working Chilean mill. Would actually crush the rocks into fine particles of ore. This will give you some idea of how the rock and ore was brought from below the earth up to the surface by this structure built over the shaft, and it was pulled around by horses. Later on, when steam became popular, they would use machinery like this to hoist the ore to the surface of the earth with the help of steam machines such as these.
The table where it was collected. Despite its ability to process up to 10 tons of quartz rock per day, the stamp mill at Reed Gold Mine produced only mediocre results. The higher concentrations of gold had already been mined by the time it went into operation in the 1890s. Extracting gold from quartz rock required big machines. It went into a jaw crusher. This device pulverized the rock into small pieces. Those were reduced even further under the pounding blows of a 750-pound stamp. This stamp mill was made in nearby Charlotte. The finely crushed rock was washed across a sloping apron table. Plates on the table were coated with mercury to capture the gold in a process called amalgamation. The gold was then extracted from the plates by heating them. There was one last chance to capture the remaining gold.
Well, I don't believe in that thing that lightning can't strike twice at the same place. Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to close for now. I want to thank everybody for stopping by my channel. Y'all be sure to go down here and click subscribe. Share with your family and friends. Share on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I really appreciate you watching. But for now, y'all have a good day.